What if the internet vanished for 7 days, starting right now, with no warning and no countdown, just a sudden quiet where the constant buzz used to be? Would you panic first or breathe first? Would your thumb still flick an empty screen as if muscle memory could summon a signal back from thin air? Would you notice the tiny sounds you forgot you could hear? Your own breath, the tick of a clock, a bird making a simple plan that does not require a password. We think the web lives outside of us, but it also lives inside our habits, inside our choices, inside the small reflexes that run our day without asking for permission. So if the internet disappeared for one short week, what would crumble and what would grow? Imagine the first hour. You open a chat app to send a quick message. It spins and fails. You try the browser. Nothing. You switch from Wi-Fi to mobile data. Still nothing. It is not your phone. It is the world. Because you are human, you test 10 more times. Then you look up. The room has not changed, but the center of your attention has no place to land. Your brain keeps asking for the next drip of information because it was trained to ask. You feel a small itch, then a wave of impatience. Then, strangely, a thin layer of relief. Life just set a boundary for you that you could not set for yourself. There is a gap now, an empty chair at your inner table. Who sits in it when the internet leaves the room? Because 1 week sounds short, your mind wants to negotiate. You tell yourself, this is a forced detox, a chance to catch up on real life. However, the web holds not just entertainment, but many rails of daily living. Work, banking, maps, news, school. The golden thread that tied your calendar to the calendars of your team. Without it, your day becomes a set of manual decisions you forgot how to make. Therefore, this is not a vacation. It is a test of attention, of relationships, of resilience. Let us walk through 3 living scenarios so you can feel them in your bones, not just as a theory, but as a day you could wake up into. In the first scenario, the focus is personal life. Phones still turn on, but there is no cloud. You cannot back up your photos or stream music or follow the best fitness video. You cannot check the weather app, but you can step outside and study the sky like your grandparents did. You cannot read the latest hot take, but you can read the book that has been waiting for you on the shelf. You finally notice that your kitchen counter has become a shelf for unopened mail because you always think you are busy. What if you open one envelope and pay the bill by walking to the store? The line is longer than you wanted, yet the person in front of you tells a tiny story about their day, and you say something kind in return. It is small, and it is real. You remember you can cook with what you have, because a recipe online is no longer the law. You use smell, taste, and patience. You eat slower because no video is competing for your eyes. Your heart rate shifts. You sleep without the glow. You dream in complete sentences again. The paradox starts to appear. With less connection online, you feel more connected in a room. In the second scenario, think like a neighborhood. The city still moves, but the map reroutes to the old ways. Traffic lights keep working because the grid is local. However, logistics slip because orders cannot sync. The cafe runs low on a few items because their supply forecast lives in a system that cannot talk right now. The owner writes a chalkboard sign asking for patience and offers a small discount if you bring cash. You remember cash. The library becomes a sudden hub. People arrive to find quiet company and printed newspapers that still arrive because the trucks still drive. A few students sit with notebooks, not laptops, and trade notes like a secret language. A teacher draws timelines on paper because the lesson must go on. At the pharmacy, a parent needs a refill, but the online approval cannot arrive. The pharmacist calls the doctor with a landline and writes a temporary script based on trust and records on site. You see how much runs on relationships when systems pause. The neighborhood organizes a bulletin board at the corner store. Help offered. Needs posted. A teenager who is good with bikes fixes flats for 3 elderly neighbors. He never thought of himself as useful like this. Now he does. You keep thinking about the paradox. The outage weakens convenience but can strengthen community because people lean on people when they cannot lean on systems. In the third scenario, step into your workplace. Calendars freeze. Emails vanish into drafts. Meetings cannot be virtual. The choice is simple and hard. Cancel or gather. Your team chooses to meet in person at the local park with a whiteboard that fits in a backpack. At first it feels like cosplay, like you are pretending to be a startup in a movie. Then something real happens. Without screens, people look at one another long enough to hear. Ideas cross the circle without the lag of notification noise. The conversation becomes a chain instead of 12 parallel threads. You decide the three most important outcomes for this week with a pen, because prioritization is a language that does not require internet. You write who owns what and when it will be done. You agree to daily stand-ups by phone at the same hour. You notice that many tasks do not actually need the web at every minute. Drafting, sketching, planning, training, cleaning data that is already local, practicing a pitch out loud, calling a customer to ask how they really feel. You also notice that some roles depend on networks that will not function until the web returns. For those, the honest move is to pause, not pretend. You rotate people into projects that help the company long-term. Organize documentation on paper, rehearse safety drills, fix physical tools, repair trust. It is humbling. It is also clarifying, because when everything cannot be done, the important becomes visible. You might say this is romantic. Please do not. A 7-day outage would hurt many people. Some cannot access the news that keeps them safe. Some cannot contact family abroad. Some small businesses would lose sales they need to pay rent. People who rely on remote care would suffer. Let us hold that truth with care. And still, inside the pain, there is a second truth that stares at us. We built our days around a river of information, then forgot how to swim when the current stops. The week without the web is a mirror. It does not tell you who you should be. It shows you who you already are when the autopilot turns off. Now we face the paradox more directly. We say we want freedom, yet we cling to constant connection that scripts our attention minute by minute. We say we love our friends, yet we scroll through 100 faces and forget the one who lives 3 doors away. We say we are creative, yet we wait for the algorithm to tell us what to think about next. When the internet vanishes for a week, freedom does not arrive with music. It arrives as silence. Silence that can feel like an accusation at first. Why do you not know how to be with yourself? Why do you not know what to do next if no one tells you? Then, if you stay with it, silence becomes a teacher. It asks gentle questions. What do you care about even when no one is watching? Which task still matters when it will not be posted? Which person in your life deserves your undivided presence today? You cannot hide from these questions with a scroll. You can only answer. There is also a practical rhythm to learn. Without the web, you plan in larger chunks. You choose a block of time for a task and protect it because there is no quick check of a feed to break it. You write a short daily plan on paper because paper never pings. You move your body because your body is right here. You walk to buy food and greet the vendor because the vendor is right here. This is not anti-technology. It is pro-agency. Technology is amazing when it is a tool you hold. It is dangerous when it becomes a river that carries you without consent. 7 days offline turn the river into a lake. You can stand on the shore and choose how to swim when the water returns. Relationships face their own test. Some friendships live mostly online. For 1 week, you cannot maintain them the usual way. You must pick a few to call, a few to visit. The limitation forces you to choose depth over width. That is painful and honest, and sometimes healing. If you share a home with someone, your micro-rituals become the highlight of the day because there's less noise to cover them. A shared breakfast, a game with simple rules, a walk with a real conversation that stretches longer than your patience would allow if you had a phone in your hand. You learn to ask better questions. What are you worried about? What are you excited about? What promise do you want to make to yourself this week? You may discover that the person sitting across from you has been waiting to be seen, not just contacted. Work teams learn the texture of trust when they cannot hide behind threads and tickets. If someone always answers instantly online, you cannot confuse that for productivity anymore. The proof shifts from presence to results. That is scary if your confidence came from being always available. It is liberating if your value comes from what you build. You also learn which meetings were never needed. If a meeting cannot survive without a slide deck and a screen, perhaps it had no heart. In 7 days, you can rebuild a culture with fewer artifacts and more agreements, because agreements are promises between people, not files in a drive. Money life also reshapes. You probably spend less because impulse buying online is not an option. Therefore, you meet your own desires without a checkout button to soothe them. Desire without a button forces you to feel, to wait, to ask if you still want it tomorrow. You also notice that local stores become community anchors again. The owner remembers your name because your face is not a tracking pixel to them. You realize that every dollar is also a vote for the kind of neighborhood you want after the web returns. A week can begin that habit. Health shifts too. You cannot track every metric with an app, but you can listen to easy signals your body sends: hunger, thirst, fatigue, restlessness. You can design a simple routine that does not rely on a feed. Stretch for 5 minutes when you wake. Walk after lunch. Go to bed when you feel heavy in the eyes, not when you reach the end of a reel. The quiet supports this. Sleep is deeper because blue light is not stealing your melatonin at midnight. Anxiety may spike on day one, then lower as your nervous system finds a slower drum. Focus may feel rusty at first, then warm like a muscle that remembers it was built for more than fast switches. Of course, not all silence is kind. For some, the internet is a lifeline out of loneliness, a doorway to communities that do not exist nearby. The outage can feel like a closed door. If that is you, the week will ask you to build small bridges in the offline world. A club at the library, a notice on the community board, a shared project that uses hands, not clicks. It will not replace your online tribe. It will give you another layer so you are less fragile when systems fail. Resilience is not toughness. Resilience is many ways to be okay. Now let us zoom into a single day inside this week to make it concrete. You wake at 6 without an alarm because your body is rested. You write 3 lines about what you want your day to feel like. Not what you want to achieve, but how you want to move through the hours. Calm, curious, kind. You brew coffee and sit for 5 minutes without reading anything. It is harder than it sounds. You feel the itch to reach for a screen. You do not. You let the itch pass like a cloud that does not need a story. You open a notebook and write a short list. Call mom, finish chapter 3 of the book, fix the drawer, cook pasta with what you have. At work, you meet your team at a table. You talk about one problem at a time. You draw it. You break it into 3 actions. You assign each action. You go do it. At lunch, you walk without headphones. You hear the city as if it were music. A bus sighs. A kid laughs. A dog shakes and its collar sings. In the afternoon, you feel bored, then creative. You sketch an idea that had been floating in your head for months but never sat still long enough to land. In the evening, you visit a friend. You play a card game and tell a story from years ago because stories are the original social network. You go home and sleep. You did not become a new person. You re-met yourself. In the background of this week, a deeper question keeps knocking. What do you use the internet for? Is it a path to your values or a detour? Maybe it is both. Because the web can amplify what matters, but only if you choose the input with intention. After 7 days, the signal will return. The noise will return too. The most important choice is what you decide to bring back from the quiet. Will you let the algorithm claim your first morning minute again, or will you keep that minute for yourself? Will you add back 5 alerts that steal your focus, or will you guard your focus like a scarce resource? Will you design your digital tools around your life, or design your life around your tools? Here is the strange gift inside the outage. Without the web, you see your real infrastructure, your habits, your trust circle, your ability to make a plan with a pencil, your shelf with food for 3 days, your printed list of phone numbers for the people you love, your map to the nearest clinic. These are not paranoid moves. They are simple kindness to your future self. The gift is clarity. The price is inconvenience. The return is agency. You may still worry. That is fair. What about big news? What about emergencies? What about work that truly requires a network? The honest answer is that 7 days offline is not a game. It would demand real backup plans from cities, teams, and families. So let us turn fear into action. Call it gentle preparedness, not doom, just care. Write down essential contacts. Agree on 2 meeting points with the people you love. Keep a little cash. Learn 1 route by memory. Print 1 page with instructions for something important in your home. This is not because you expect failure. It is because you know life is not a perfect machine. At the end of the week, the web returns with a rush. Screens light up like a city at night. Notifications pour in like rain. For a moment, it feels like a party. Then you notice that the best part of your week was not the pause itself, but who you were inside the pause. You were slower and more present. You picked up tasks that looked small and felt big. You spoke to people with your eyes. You made a promise to your day and kept it. The internet can stay. You do not need to stay lost inside it. So here is a small challenge for the next 24 hours. Create your 1-page offline plan. At the top, write why it matters to you. Because I want to own my attention. Because I want to hear my family when they speak. Because I want to feel strong when systems wobble. Then add 5 items. A printed list of 5 phone numbers, a simple meal plan that works without a recipe, a short list of cash needs, a map to one place you care about, a tiny ritual to start your morning without a screen. Do one of them today. Then tell us how it felt. If you agree that 1 week offline could reveal the real you, comment 1. If you disagree and think the web is an absolute need even for meaning, comment 0. If you want to go deeper, write one sentence about the value you want to protect when you come back online. Consider this closing thought as a pocket compass. When the noise goes quiet, the inner compass gets louder. Listen to it before you log back in.